In our first lecture, we know that the third question for macroeconomics was, why does the economy fluctuate? Actually, economic growth helps us to define the economic cycle, which are ups and downs in the economy, Let's take a look. So when we have here three main phases, recession, depression, expansion. When we talk about recession, we're talking about a slowing economy. Growth is positive, but it is going down. So we are growing to 0.5 going to the negative. When we talk about depression, it's actually a negative growth that going deeper into negativity. So -2, -4, -6. When we actually going out of this depression, the GDP growth is actually going up, -2, -1, -5, and finally we have expansion, which is accelerating economic growth, 2, 4, and 7. And we have two turning points. A peak is the end of an expansion and a start of a recession. A trough is the end of the recession and sometimes depression, and the starts of a new expansion and recovery. So economic growth numbers will help us to understand how is economic cycle is calculated and to be defined. Now let's go and give some hints about how do we use GDP in our managerial decision. Well, the economic growth or the expected economic growth can work as a base for your sales forecast. So if you are in charge of sales forecasting for your company, the economic growth will be one of the bases to calculate your sales forecast. On the other hand, we know that higher GDP means better living standards and better attraction for investors to come to our country or the country with a high GDP. So gross domestic product, it's calculated using the expenditure approach, consumption plus investment plus government purchases plus exports minus imports. We differentiate between the real GDP, which is the current quantities times the base year prices, and the nominal GDP, which is current times nominal. Deflator is a measure for prices, nominal over real times 100. Economic growth, a change in real GDP from one period to another. We use GDP for economic welfare comparison between countries and between the same countries for a different year. However, it has 7 defects, and when it comes to compare between other countries, we have to use exchange rate and unified prices, or in other words, PPP. The economic growth is one of the indicators that we use to define the economic cycle. We are done with this chapter. Looking forward to meet you in the coming chapters and the coming units, God willing.